Hey Heart fans, it's time to find out what's in the box. We have brand new Heart fan merchandise at the awesome, brand new, newly opened Butch Hartman merchandise store here on the Butch Hartman channel. Go to heartfans.com, check out all the awesome stuff that's on sale for a very limited amount of time. We have a variety of designs like storyboard sleeves. It's like an animated TV show that's come to life right in your arms. Obtuse, rubber goose, green moose, well, you know the rest. This shirt's available in both black and gray. Incognito Fan is a shirt that's perfect for that undercover ghost-busting teenage superhero in your life. Do you have fairies but can't reveal them to the world? Then the They Think They're Slick shirt is perfect for you in both a gray and black option. And lastly, Billionfold Ink is represented on this shirt. Wait a minute. Ah! So make sure to check out the brand new Butch Hartman merch store on the Butch Hartman channel. Go to heartfans.com, but these shirts are available for only a limited time until December 17th. So click on the link down below or go to heartfans.com to get yours now before they're all gone. Hey Heart fans, Butch Hartman here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, please. Wow, that was weird. All right, it's gone. What does that mean when I say it's gone? It's gone. It's gone. It's gone. It's all gone. God, it's gone. It's just gone. It's gone. I can't believe how gone it is. What does gone mean actually? The word gone is like, man, it's out. Done. Usually never to be seen again. That's a big heavy work. It can be very heavy. For example, if someone that you love and they're gone, that's bad. But if it's someone you don't like and they're like gone, it's like, cool, they're gone. Or like, hey, where's the rest of the pizza? It's gone. And you're like, dude, really? You know, I was saving that. And then there's like a fight, then roommates, then that's a roommate situation, and that's not. But Butch, what are you talking about exactly? What am I talking about? I am talking about the fact that HannaBarbera Studios is gone. I gotta say, it really kind of saddens me because not only did I work at HannaBarbera in the early 90s when it was still called HannaBarbera, but I actually grew up on HannaBarbera produced cartoons. And let's go back a little bit in history and explore HannaBarbera a little bit, and you guys can kind of see where I'm coming from when I sit here lamenting. Ooh, lamenting. What does that mean? That means to be in sorrow over, or to be concerned about, or like, you know, you're saddened over something. Yeah, that's right. It's the Butch Hartman Educational Channel. All right, so HannaBarbera, Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera started out as cartoon directors at MGM Studios back in the 1930s and 40s. And, you know, back when Walt Disney was really tearing it up in the theatrical animation world, because that's really all cartoons were back then. They were little short subjects before actual movies. And the only animation industry that there was making cartoons for movie theaters. And so Hanna and Barbera started up as directors at MGM Studios, and they were making Tom and Jerry cartoons. The original Tom and Jerry cartoons were created and directed by Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera, and they were some of the best cartoons ever. Okay, so I was first introduced to Tom and Jerry back in the 70s when I was a kid. I'd come home from school, sit down, eat junk food, and watch local television stations that would show the Tom and Jerry cartoons. Originally made for theaters, we now saw them on TV. And what I loved about the Hanna-Barbera Tom and Jerry cartoons was that there was no dialogue. Very rarely was there any dialogue. Occasionally they'd have a character come in, like maybe Jerry's Uncle Pecos, you know, the cowboy guitar player. He'd say, "Yeah, hey there, nephew, you know I can't play without a guitar string. Oh, Froggy went a chord and he did ride, got crambone." It's hysterically funny. And then Tom occasionally would scream in pain because something would hit him in the head, or he'd swallow a beehive, or a beehive would fall on his head or something. There was a great Tom scream that would happen. I think that was actually done by Bill Hanna too. That rumor has it. I'm not sure. Don't quote me. Anyway, Hanna-Barbera did the fantastic Tom and Jerry cartoons. They even won an Oscar for one of their cartoons. It's the one where Tom is playing the piano and Jerry's messing with it. And once television started taking over in the late 1940s, early 50s, Hanna-Barbera left saying, hey, we can start our own animation studio, make animation for television. Now that idea sounds great. Let's do it for television. But the thing about television is television has a very strict time limit. There's very strict deadlines in television. You got to get a show out every week. Whereas with movies and short subjects, you could take forever. You could take as long as you want to make your movie. It just comes out whenever it's done. So I guess you have to have a semi-deadline. Hey, we got this movie coming out. We'd love it to show before this movie. So there were deadlines. but nothing like a TV deadline. In fact, I've never really worked steadily in the motion picture industry doing feature animation and stuff like that, only because I got swallowed up by the TV industry. So making movies is way different than making TV, because movies you work on one story for 4 years. But in 4 years on TV, I could tell probably 400 stories. So it's a whole different mindset. Anyway, so Bill Hanna, Joe Barbera decided to start their own TV studio and do television animation. Great idea. But then the dreaded deadline appears. See how my hands can do that? I can make words appear with my hands. It's amazing. The deadline starts showing up. It's like, wow, how are we gonna do this cartoon stuff in a limited amount of time? Well, Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera came up with something called limited animation. In fact, I don't know if they came up with it, but they utilized it. I think other companies like UPA had already begun perfecting limited animation, but HannaBarbera started doing it on television. And the way they did it was, if you watch a lot of early HannaBarbera cartoons like Huckleberry Hound, Top Cat, The Flintstones, things like that, you'll see that the characters' bodies barely move. Only their legs move, their mouths move, maybe their eyes blink, their arms move, but you don't really see them all move at once in one fluid motion. And it was really kind of genius, because that way you would limit the amount of drawings you had. Basically have a character's body stay in place for the entire scene and only replace the cells for the arm or the mouth or the feet or whatever, or the background or whatever you're doing. By the way, that's why in those Flintstone cartoons, when Fred Flintstone's running through the house, when I was a kid, I'd notice he'd run through the house, but he'd run past the same lamp, couch, and chair about 300 times. Be like, lamp, couch, chair, lamp, couch, chair, lamp, couch, chair. I thought, boy, Fred Flintstone has like 100 couches in his house. That's really cool. Mom, can we get 100 couches? And my mom would say, shut up and eat your vegetables. And I would say, I'm not eating my vegetables. And then chaos would ensue. And the reason Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble have 5 o'clock shadow on their faces is because that was where you could take the cell of the mouth off the character's face and put the mouth on in a different pose. So the characters could talk and it wouldn't look too jarring that the mouth was changing because the 5 o'clock shadow was there. So that helped on Fred and Barney. But yeah, limited animation was basically invented so it would save the animators a lot of time and it would save a lot of money, because if the animators are sitting there doing one scene all week, you're not getting anything done. They've got to do a whole episode every week, and that's where the costs really got huge. In fact, every time you guys watch a cartoon movie of any kind, animated movie, anything, it always comes down to cost. I know I don't want to burst your bubble here as far as, entertainment goes, but you always have to figure what's it going to cost, because you have to pay people to do this stuff. If you watch the latest Avengers movie, Infinity War, Thanos, snap, I don't feel so good. But all of these movies, cartoons, everything comes down to cost, and HannaBarbera were very aware of this. So they actually made it through the entire 1960s doing their animation in their own studio at the HannaBarbera studio on Cahuenga Boulevard in Hollywood, where I actually worked. Great studio, and they designed it, they built it. They actually built it in place. There was on the site where the studio's built, there was a little park. There was a park there on Cahuenga. It was called Monkey Island. There were actual monkeys there. And people would go there and feed the monkeys and see the monkeys. Not like, hey, we're the monkeys, Davy Jones, Mike Nesmith, Peter Tork, and Mickey Dolenz. That's how old I am. I know these guys. But anyway, they got rid of Monkey Island. They built the HannaBarbera studio there in the 1960s, early 60s, and just really started taking off. In fact, HannaBarbera were so successful, they basically created the Saturday morning cartoon experience. They really did. By the end of the 1960s, about 80% of the cartoons on Saturday morning were done by HannaBarbera. They were just raking in the audience and raking in the cheddar cheese, the cha-ching, you know what I'm talking about? These guys were doing really, really well. But then they were doing so many shows at that time. In fact, I grew up on a lot of those shows. I mean, I watched The Flintstones, I watched Johnny Quest, I watched Space Ghost, I watched The Wacky Races, I watched Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles, I watched Scooby-Doo. I mean, Scooby-Doo, that cartoon has been running for 50 years. That cartoon's been on since I was a kid. I mean, there are just massive amounts of Scooby-Doo stuff out there, and the impact that HannaBarbera had in not only just the animation world, but the entertainment world is not to be believed. And then they just continued doing it through the 70s and the 80s. But by that time, they realized that the costs were so expensive to do TV animation, they had to start doing animation overseas. Basically because there were no animation unions overseas. See, Americans in animation unions demanded to get paid a certain amount of money, which is completely understandable. They need to get paid that amount of money for the cost of living over here. Other countries there weren't any unions, so they could just basically say, hey, we'd love to pay you this, and the other countries would say, okay. And they paid them a decent wage, but way, way less than Americans would cost. So as a result, they were able to do more animation for about the same amount of money, and it really saved them a lot in cost. But they just built up a huge legacy, Hanna-Barbera did, and by the time I got there in the early 90s, they were sort of on their last legs, and it was a little disheartening for me. And this is nothing against those guys. I mean, by that time, Bill and Joe were probably in their 70s or even in their 80s. I don't even know. I only met Joe Barbera 2 times when I was there. He was the nicest guy in the world. Very slick dude. Like, wore the nicest clothes, nicest jewelry. His hair was jet black. He was like 80-something years old, but hey, I'm gonna go for that too, don't mind saying. Okay, so anyways, Bill Hanna was just the sweetest guy in the world, and I only met him a couple times as well. They were very busy. They were older guys, and I think they had sold their studio early on in the 80s and just got a lot of money for it, and they would kind of come in as figureheads all the time, but they were just great to have around. They're very inspirational guys. And by the time I got there, the studio was sort of like waning, I guess you would say. The creative spark wasn't there anymore. A lot of the guys that made the cartoons I grew up with were there, but they were really old, and nothing against old people, but they did, like, a lot of their energy had gone away. You know, a lot of their creative spark had gone away. They still had it in bursts, but there really was no focus there for them to work on anything. I mean, the leaders of the studio weren't really fired up about it. So you got a bunch of artists there kind of just spinning their wheels, not really having anything to do. And I think a lot of the guys were a little jaded. They'd been there for a while. They probably weren't getting paid as much as they wanted to. They made all these great cartoons that other people made money off of. You know, and listen, I understand. You work hard on a project, you'd like to reap some of the benefits as well. Not every studio can do that though, or even wants to do that. That's a whole nother video we can talk about. But you know, you work as hard as you can, and you create opportunities where you can, and we'll do that in another video as well. When I got there in the early 90s, Ted Turner came in and bought Hanna-Barbera and turned it into Cartoon Network. And at that point, a new surge, I'll be honest, a new surge of creative energy came in. There were people with money. They came in, they wanted to do more things. Fred Seibert came in and started the What a Cartoon program. So he based, all of us young guys that were at Hanna-Barbera were given license to come in and pitch cartoons. We're like, really? We can actually pitch something new? And we all kind of sat around and brainstormed and came up with cartoon ideas, and they bought them and made them. And it really put the creative surge back into that studio that was Hanna-Barbera. And Hanna-Barbera stayed around for a while. And I was there with guys like Gendy Tartakovsky, Craig McCracken, Seth MacFarlane. Craig made Powerpuff Girls. Gendy made Dexter's Lab. Seth went off to go do Family Guy at Fox. I went off to go do Fairly Odd Parents. And Van Parvel made Johnny Bravo. I mean, there were some really cool shows that came out of that era when I was there. Worked with some great people. And Cartoon Network went on to become Cartoon Network, and Hanna-Barbera sadly kind of slipped into the ether of the Hollywood greats, you know, when the leaders of the studio aren't there anymore or can't be there anymore, you know, things change hands. If I could impart anything to you guys in this video right now, it's always be careful who your legacy is handed off to. You want to make sure that whatever you're doing, if you care about your legacy, make sure it's handed off to the right people. You make sure it's handed off to people that you trust, people that you love, and people that love you, so they'll treat it the right way. And I think it's very important that we all leave a legacy behind. I would encourage you to leave a good legacy behind, something that's uplifting and powerful, that changes people's lives, and in a good way, not a bad way, but in a good way. Because if you're not careful, you can leave a bad legacy behind. And it's our job in this life to leave as powerful and positive a legacy behind as we can. So anyway, I think Hanna-Barbera, Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera have left a very powerful legacy behind. They've inspired millions and millions of people around the world, including me. It was sad to see their studio go. In fact, the building now, it's really sad. I mean, it's good for the new building, but sad for me. I drive by the building now, it's in Hollywood, and it's been turned into a gym. It's been turned into a fitness center. And they've even built condominiums on the parking lot where I used to park my car. You know, the people in the apartments, good for them. The people in the gym, good for them. I think my old office, there's a Stairmaster in my old office, I think. But, or maybe there's a drinking fountain. Maybe there's a garbage can. I don't even know. But I know people have sweat there now. But it's just weird to see things you love become something else. And hopefully in our lives, if we can help it and control it, we can make old things into things that are even more awesome. So there you go. Hanna-Barbera is gone, but the legacy and the memory lives on. I only hope you guys can do something as cool as Hanna-Barbera in the future. I know you can. Okay? All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. This has been Butch Hartman talking a lot. And Hanna-Barbera, man, so many cool memories. And I could do a million videos on them. But which Hanna-Barbera show was your favorite? Let me know down in the comment section below. Okay? All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. And as always, don't forget, art gives you power. Use it wisely.
Hey Hart fans, subscribe here to keep up with me, Danny, Timmy, Dudley, Bunsen, and click here to buy shirts from my new merch store. Or go to heartfans.com. Click over here to watch my most recent video and here to start a playlist related to this video. Whoa, check out that awesome fan art. To be featured here, use hashtag HeartFanArt and tag me. I'm on every social media platform known to man. Cartoon Butch out. Pencil drop.